Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the third day of the Eastern Unity Regional Conference. My name is Safi Lin. I'm so happy to be here with you all. I'm a full-time performing musician and vocal coach here in the Baltimore area. I'm very blessed to be sharing music with some of the Unity churches here in the region, Unity of Washington, D.C., Unity of Baltimore. I've been to Unity of DC and Unity Center of Light in Bowie. And thank you, April May, for inviting me to be here with you all today. Um, I've also won a Posse Award for my song "Let the Healing Begin" and the video. So I wanted to start this morning by sharing that video with you all, and then I'll do a short music medicine meditation. So I offer meditation concerts also around the area and online. So I'd love to offer that for you this morning. So we'll start with the video, and I hope you enjoy it. In the dark night of the desperate soul, when you're lost and don't know which way to go, you've come so far you don't know where you've been. This is where the healing begins. When your heart cries out for the millionth time, and there's no one there to reel in your line, when the light inside fades to dim, this is where the healing begins. This is where you find your true voice, where you realize you have a choice. You can let the darkness win, or you can let the healing begin. This is where you find your true voice, where you realize you have a choice. You can let the darkness win, or you can let the healing begin. So do your best not to fall apart. Find your strength and embrace the dark. For even if you think your chances are slim, this is where the healing begins. find your true voice, where you realize you have a choice. You can let the darkness win, or you can let the healing begin. This is where you find your true voice, where you realize you have a choice. You can let the darkness win, or you can let the healing begin. You can let the darkness win, or you can let the healing begin. Thank you so much. That's off of my meditation album, Pulse of Evolution. And it's on all the streaming services and also on Bandcamp if you'd like to download it. I like to let the credits scroll because all these co-producers are people that helped me finance this project. I have a lot of wonderful supporters, including a lot of Unity people, so thank you so much.
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards. Yeah, we print that. But did you know we all...
Okay, great. So you're welcome to share that video in your congregations. I'd be honored. And I'd love it if you become a subscriber on the YouTube channel too. All the links are in the chat. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Okay, so now I'm going to offer a musical meditation for about 15 minutes. I invite you to settle in where you are and receive the medicine of the music. The first two songs are mine, and then the third song is by Zero Amaro, I believe. I'm going to look that one up. But it's part Spanish because during the talk today, you'll have the opportunity if anyone needs Spanish translation. So I thought I'd offer a Spanish translation song. All right, so let's take a breath together. Let it out. I am loving, forgiving, praying for your well-being. 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 I am grateful, abundant, full of hope and grace. I am grateful, abundant, full of hope and grace. I am grateful, abundant, full of hope and grace. I am grateful, abundant, full of hope and grace. humbled to be human on this earthly plane. I am humbled to be human on this earthly plane. I am humbled to be human on this earthly plane. I am humbled to be human on this earthly plane. I see clearly within me a connection to this light. I see clearly within me a connection to this light. I see clearly within me a connection to this light. I see clearly within me a connection to this light. To this light. To this light. To this light. I am loving, forgiving, praying for your well-being. I am grateful, abundant, full of hope and grace. I am humbled to be human on this earthly plane. I see clearly within me a connection to this light. Hush now, little baby, go back to your sleep. And while you're there, maybe find your soul to keep. Find your soul to keep. Listen very closely. Listen close to me. Reality is blindness. Life lives in the trees. Life lives in the trees. to live in love, live in love. Go now, little baby, go now on your own. Live in peace and kindness, queen of your own throne, king of your own throne. Breathe it in, let it out. You know what it's like. You know what it's like to live in love, live in love, live in love. Somos la luz del bosque, espíritu de todas edades. Somos la luz del bosque, espíritu de todas edades. Somos la luz divina, sabiduría de los mares. Somos la luz divina, sabiduría de los mares. Transformamos el dolor, trayendo todo a la luz. Transformamos el dolor, trayendo todo a la luz. Con el espíritu de la abuelita, cantando toda la noche. Con la ayuda de la madrecita, cantando toda la noche. We are the light of the forest, the spirit of all of the ages. We are the light of the forest, the spirit of all of the ages. We are divine light, the wisdom of the seas. We are divine light, the wisdom of the seas. transform pain, bringing all to the light. We transform pain, bringing all to the light. With the spirit of our grandmother, we sing all through the night. With the help of our dear mother, we sing all through the night. Somos la luz del bosque, espíritu de todas edades. We are the light of the forest, the spirit of all of the ages. We are divine light, the wisdom of the seas. Somos la luz divina, sabiduría de los mares.
Thank you, Safi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for being here to hear that beautiful opening music. We're going to pause our record and take a short comfort break. Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started with Ellen Davenport, but I just want to let folks know that if you're interested in English to Spanish translation this morning, an icon will show up in your chat box in a few minutes, and if you click on it, it'll pop out that translation for you. Ellen, we're ready for you.
I will just take it on faith that everybody's back from the break. I can't actually see a lot of you. I'm Ellen Davenport. I am the Vice President of Publishing for Unity World Headquarters, and I got chosen to represent UWH at your region today, and I was delighted. I presented at the Eastern region, gosh, years ago, and I have always known it to be a strong region with interesting people. I've been told recently that you've been having some deep discussions and that I could expect questions. So that's fine. I hope so, because we have a lot of time together, and I didn't do a formal presentation. I can tell you some of the things that are going on. If you have questions right now, you can put them in the chat, and then in a little while we will open the microphones and we can just talk live. But why don't we start with the video that Jim Blake made for you? Matt, do you have that queued up?
Greetings, friends. Thanks for including an update from Unity World Headquarters as part of your regional fall conference experience. It's been an interesting year at the Village. As we announced earlier, we offered buyouts to a number of our longtime team members, and that has prompted all sorts of wonderful opportunities for reorganization and innovation in every department on campus. We are excited about the internal changes, but what hasn't changed is our basic mission to help and serve more people. We are still doing all the things, including some that were begun by the Fillmores themselves. Many of you have told me that congregants in Unity churches and centers love knowing they're a part of a global movement. Maybe you've wondered, how many people are we actually reaching with the Unity message, including people who may never go to a Unity church or consider themselves attached to Unity in any way. These are the people who subscribe to Daily Word or Unity Magazine, who call Silent Unity for prayer, or maybe who buy our books or products to learn more about Unity teachings. To give you a better sense of how UWH is sharing the Unity message, we've put together a little video. Some of you saw a version of this for 2022, but it's been updated for this year with some additional information. When we say we want to share the Unity message with the world, this is how we do it. Every time I watch this video, I'm inspired and reminded of how blessed we are to be able to share these transformational teachings, tools, and resources. Our hope is that it gives you some idea of what is going on at Unity Village in terms of our ministries and outreach to the larger general audiences, those who might describe themselves as spiritual but not religious. So many people are seeking spiritual support, and I am pleased that together with you, we can always be available as a place for them to turn. The work being done by each of you in the field ministries may be the deepest and most personal way to share the Unity message. I am grateful for all that you do, and as always, I hope what we are producing at UWH will support you in those continued efforts. Thank you, my friends. May the coming year be filled with blessings for each of you. Namaste.
Okay. Oh my gosh, we already have questions in the chat. So let me start with that because I want to make sure we have time to talk about whatever you want to talk about. So let's start with the bookstore and the cafe. For many years, they were combined in one place, and we lost $30,000 to $40,000 a year on that because we were keeping it open mainly just to sell some cups of coffee when people were not buying the books and gifts that were in there. So we're always looking for ways to be better stewards of the money that is donated to UWH. And we said, what if we separated the two? What if we had a coffee shop and then a bookstore? And what if we didn't run the coffee shop? Because running a restaurant is really not our core competency, and other people do it easily and beautifully. So we decided to do that. We leased the space that you would know as the bookstore and coffee shop. to a man named Jeremy Springer, who started a coffee shop that he decided to call the Fillmore Cafe. And it is beautiful. He painted, he rotates local artists on the walls. There are lots and lots of conversation nooks. And then the gifts and books are in another place, because what we saw when we looked at the figures is that really the only time we sell gifts and books is when there's a group on campus. So what we've been testing the last 6 months is to have it open one day a week, but then also to open it whenever there's a retreat on campus or somebody who would want to shop there. It was open for convention on the Monday when everybody at the convention came out to the village. And it has worked. We are making a profit already, and we are accepting lease money from the coffee shop guy. And so they have both become streams of revenue that support the other ministries like Daily Word and Silent Unity. So it seems to be working pretty well. The location is, if you went through those back double doors of what was the bookstore and keep going, it's down there on the left, what used to be a conference room. Unity Village Chapel has moved, and so there's that open area that they used for a community room that is now an employees hangout called the Village Commons. And the gifts and bookstore is a part of that. And it's only hard to find if you don't work there or if you're not with a group that is going there. And the public really does not drive over to Unity Village to shop at our bookstore. They never did. So people like to think that it should be visible and people will be coming and going, but they don't. And we actually got tired of pretending that that was ever going to happen. So I hope that helps answer it. It's still in progress and we may tweak it as we go along, but so far so good. There was a retreat there last weekend and bookstore did $5,000 in a weekend, which is considered really good for just the books and gifts part of what used to be the bookstore. I'm still having to practice changing my language. Coffee shop, gifts and books. So I hope that answers that. That's one. And when is the last time you were on campus? I just don't think there's a corporate feel to it. We numbered the buildings because we invite the public onto the campus, especially for weddings and for corporate trainings and for their corporate retreats. And if you say to them education building, they have no earthly idea where that might be. If you say Silent Unity building, they don't know. So we numbered them so that it would be easy for them to find on the courtyard and on the map. And if you can picture it in your mind, it starts with the administration building, which is building 100 and goes around clockwise. So Silent Unity is 200, the tower is 300, education is 400. And we get a far fewer complaints and frustrated people wandering around on campus trying to find where they're going and trying to open every door. Ellen at unityonline.org is my contact info. Reach of publishing depends on what you're looking at. Daily Word has a circulation of 400,000. Unity Magazine has about 16,000 right now. The booklets, we print 350,000. The most popular booklets are Advent and Lent, and they go to 50, 60,000 people a year. Book sales are smaller than that, but the message is getting out there. And then there's the website. I'm not on the digital side of the communications department, but we've got a website and 13 million emails and social media. So the reach goes out in many different ways. Okay, what else? April, you want to go ahead and open the microphones in case anybody wants to talk?
Sure. So we have about 60 people on this call. So I'm I'm going to remind you to use your Zoom hand to raise so we can see you. That'll bring you to the front of the pages. There, Paul just showed us how easy it is to do. You hover over your reactions button and you'll get an option to raise your hand. That way you'll go to the front of the queue and we'll be able to see you.
Will I be able to see them? Do I need to go to participants to see that?
Change yourself to
We're on-
gallery view.
We're on gallery now. Can you put yourself on gallery?
Yes, I can. Okay.
So Paul, go ahead.
Hi, Ellen. So good to see you as always.
Paul?
You look beautiful. I also thought that the buildings were numbered to help the fire department find buildings.
Oh, that's probably true.
Because if individuals couldn't find it, the fire department would have a little bit of trouble.
Right.
That's all I had.
Okay. So I can go ahead and tell you the campus right now looks like it is under construction inside and out. And I don't want to discourage you from going, because once you're there, you see that it's not really interfering with what we do. But the remodel has started on the activities center to turn it into the Goppert Event Center. And there's a big chain link fence around the activities center, and they've built a ramp so that they can get their machines up into the building. Let me see. Let me see if I can share my screen and show you a picture. Can you see that? That's what it looks like in there right now. They have taken up the entire floor and it's just gravel with machines sitting around. You have to have a hard hat and steel-toed boots to even be allowed in there. So it hurts me a little to see it like that, but I know it's going to be beautiful. And I can show you those pictures too. Let's see. I'm not a Zoom expert. Okay, here you go. So this is going to be the lobby, which is not that different from the way it looks now. Inside, they're saving all that beautiful woodwork. And I'm so glad, because I would have had to lie in front of the bulldozers if they were taking that down. But it will still be there, and there will be 3 tiers where you can put tables or chairs for whatever kind of presentation you are having. And I think it's going to be gorgeous. It will also be fully accessible. That's 18 to 24 months. So it could be as late as next fall when we have that. Let's see. The other construction that's going on it was not our decision. The City of Lee's Summit has decided to widen Colburn Road to 5 lanes, and they decided to start at our end. We had not planned to have the event center under construction at the same time the road was under construction, because the Colburn Road entrance is now blocked off for a year. But good news is they'll both be finished around the same time. And so when we open our gorgeous new event center, we will have this beautiful new road leading right to it. At least that's the plan. But right now, there is mud and construction and machinery all around the what would that be? The south and west sides of the campus, and everybody has to come in through the main entrance. So it's a little inconvenient, but we've put up lots of signs to get people where they're going when they come in the main entrance, and it will be worth it in the long run. So just know, if you're at the village in the next year or so, that it won't look quite the way you remember, but it's going to be better.
Ellen, I don't know if you can see, but Chris has his hand up, and then Kelly.
Oh, there's Chris. Okay, go ahead.
So Ellen, I was the plethora of questions in the chat before, and this was not meant to put you on the spot or anything. I'm just hearing these things either in our Eastern Region Thursday group or in the Unity Ministers discussion chat with what's going on. So I wanted to have you be able to do that. There's one other thing that popped into my head that was a concern that I've heard is the changes in silent unity. What I've heard is, and maybe you can talk about this in a little bit more, is that there's more of a boilerplate idea of how prayer should be executed by the folks in silent unity, as opposed to more letting the Spirit inform folks on prayer. And I just want you to speak to that, if that is true, or if what is the thinking behind this? So I'll let you comment on that.
So are you familiar with oneness language? Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes.
So silent unity has been gradually for years now transitioning over to more and more oneness language. And they recently revised the entire prayer manual for all the prayer associates, and they are trained in that kind of language for prayers. I'm not plugged in enough to know how much, the word boilerplate sticking in my mind, how much they feel forced to pray that way, and that might be individual opinion. What I hear is that they still listen for where the prayer caller is and try to find language to use that is faithful to the unity teachings, but still will resonate with the person they're talking to, which I think is a real art. And I'm sort of glad that's not my job. But I know that's what they're trying to do. More about oneness language. Betty, I'm so glad you asked. There's a new book about that very thing. Linda Martella-Whitsitt, who was the head of Silent Unity until recently, and Deanne Morency at Unity of Marin have written a new book about prayer called Discover Your Divinity. And it is about exactly this. It's about the principle of oneness and how that becomes the background of affirmative prayer. Foundation would be a better word, of affirmative prayer. And then exactly how to do it, what language to use, why to do it this way. And the last quarter of the book is about how to pray with others, how to use this language when you're praying out loud with other people. So it's just been out for a couple of weeks. It is available online in the Unity store. It is on Kindle, but not yet regular Amazon, because that always takes some time. But that would be your best bet to learn more about oneness language in prayer, because that's exactly what they wanted to teach. Deanne and Linda have been going around to churches for many years, training chaplains and others in this kind of prayer. And they said they were clamoring, that people were clamoring for something written down, something they could read later or teach from. And so that's what the book was intended to do. And it has already gone to a second printing. So they must have been right that there was demand for it.
Thank you.
The other book we have coming out this month, is 100 Years of Daily Word. 2024 is the 100th anniversary of Daily Word. And so we put together a book with messages from the past 100 years and articles about the founding and the growth, the international growth of Daily Word. And it is a gorgeous book. I think you'll really like it. People keep asking if it's a coffee table book. It's pretty enough to be a coffee table book, but it's not that big because it's meant to be read. There are over 200 messages in it, grouped by topic. So for instance, on healing, we have 2 messages from each decade of Daily Word. So it's full of healing messages, grace, joy, forgiveness, a dozen of the most popular words from Daily Word. And it was organized that way. So I think you'll really like it. I think you could even teach from it if you want to.
Kelly has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back about a minute and piggyback on the construction thing? That don't, just because Ellen said there's all this construction and things going on, don't let that dissuade you from coming, because once, I just live about 5 minutes from the village. And once I navigated through the orange cones and signs and barrack, because of the Colburn Road's construction on the village, and just doing it once, I'm like, oh, okay. And once you get on campus, you don't even see it. You don't see it. You might hear it a little bit, but once you get on the grounds, it really does disappear. It's not like it's this ever present, like, construction. I mean, you might hear some big machinery, but don't let it dissuade you.
Especially once you're up in the courtyard, you won't be aware of it. On the golf course, you won't be aware of it. It's really around the edges.
Right.
Thanks, Kelly. Anne had a question about copyright. Yes, the book itself is copyrighted, and so you can't just take passages from the book and use them. But the ideas and the teachings and the examples that are in there are intended for you to use. Yes, I know Paul's been teaching this for quite some time. Yes, he has. The other publication I'm excited about, publishing is my thing, so I'll tell you about that, is for Black History Month. 4 years ago, we did a booklet called Gems of Wisdom from Black Leaders of New Thought. And we have given away thousands of those, and it is still popular. And so we decided to do another booklet. And in talking to Sandra Campbell, it came up with the idea of a booklet that will be called From Black Church to New Thought. And the Black ministers, writers in the booklet have written about their foundations in the Black church and why they left and what appealed to them about New Thought. And what surprised me was that they all ended up saying they have been able to blend the two. That some of the things they loved about the Black church, they can bring into their New Thought churches. I also, this is subjective, okay, but they seem to have less baggage about the churches they came from. They loved it at the time. It is the foundation for who they are now and what they're doing. A couple of you, Edith and Akosua, wrote for it. It's really going to be good. So we're hoping to have that printed by the end of December, so you can get it and plan to use it whatever way you want in February, which is Black History Month. Convention next year, yes. Well, yes, there should be enough meeting rooms. None of the meeting rooms are being taken up by the construction. The main room will be what you would call the Silent Unity Chapel, also known as the Atrium Chapel for brides. For brides, we call it the Atrium Chapel. That'll be the main meeting room, and it seats 300. And so UWM apparently thinks that'll be enough. And then, of course, there are rooms all over campus that could be used for breakout sessions. The other publication news is that we have just bought a new platform for Digital Unity magazine. So sometime next year, it is going to become gorgeous and much more easy to read and pleasant to read than the current version. So I am really looking forward to that. We created a resource page for you. It's on the website. I think Matt or April are going to put the link in the chat so that you can go. It just has all the new products and books and whatever we thought you might be interested in that you could use in your ministries. Thank you, Matt. There it is. It's also got Jim's video if you want to download that and show it to your church or anything. It's a way to give people an overview of what World Headquarters does. Kelly, what do you mean and interactive?
Sorry, I typed that when you were talking about Unity Magazine and the change in that. And so part of that going digital makes it highly interactive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we can embed videos in the pages, and it'll be a lot of fun to grow that through the years. What else?
Ellen, this is April. A lot of people in the Eastern region last year contributed to a targeted campaign for accessibility funds in memory of Reverend Joy Weiler. And I was just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
So Joy wanted an elevator. So you could get, if you're staying in the hotel, you walk across to the ballroom where you might eat, but then there's stairs, steep stairs up to the courtyard to get to the fountains and all the other buildings. And so she thought that needed to be accessible. So we are planning an outdoor elevator that I think will be just outside of the ballroom. It's now called Ballroom F. If you haven't been there in a while, you would know it as Unity Inn, where you used to go in and eat. But right there by that door, it will just lift up. And it is called a lift. In shopping for this, we learned that we need a lift, not an elevator. And I think the difference is that a lift is just small and slow, but it'll be enough to get a few people up there without having to use those stairs. We don't know yet how much it will cost, so we don't know yet when we'll start, but that will be part of all the construction that is going on in that corner of the campus. And we really appreciate the contributions.
Thank you. And just to remind everybody, our ethics session on this Thursday, which is tomorrow, a portion of the proceeds, Joy did our ethics presentations for a number of years at conference. And so a portion of those proceeds will also be sent to Unity Village for the accessibility project.
That was her legacy. In building this new event center, it will be fully accessible too. I mean, it's just always on our minds now. And some of the buildings on the village are so old that they can't really be retrofitted, mainly the old homes that we've turned into Airbnbs. But the others should be increasingly accessible. And if you can just get up to the courtyard, that would help a lot. I miss her. Other questions? I think I'm out of news. Okay, I'm going to assume you're all happy. You think we're doing a wonderful job. And seriously, let us know if you have any questions. Sometimes I see things on social media and think, why didn't they just ask before they got so mad? Good question. Is Silent Unity praying at night? Yes, they are. The only thing that has changed there, and this has been the case for about 3 years now, is that they are not answering the phones in the wee hours of the morning. But there are still people working. They are answering the prayer requests that come in electronically. And a lot of people, about 12% of the people who call, prefer a recorded prayer anyway. You're given a choice at the beginning. Do you want to speak to a person, or would you like a recorded prayer? 12% go to the recorded prayer, even during the hours that prayer associates are working. But overnight, they are working, answering the electronic prayer requests, which is about 40% of them now, and also keeping the prayer vigil going. So every 30 minutes, they have a system, and I don't know exactly how it works, but to make sure that they are handing off to the next person. They're not just assuming that someone is taking over the vigil. They make sure that that is happening, and that continues all night too. Not the wee hours. This started with the pandemic when we were having trouble getting people to campus and getting them set up at home with the equipment they needed. There's far less traffic during the night, so that seemed like an easy place to cut. It also saves some money. But Silent Unity is undergoing a reorganization, and part of the plan is to restore those overnight hours. I don't know when, but I know that is the intention. The vigil may or may not be on campus. It depends on where the person whose turn it is to pray is working. But, you know, there is no time or place in spirit.
Akosu has her hand up.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Ellen, you did mention the labyrinth. And I just wanted to say that we were there for Celebrating Our Souls in August last year. And our 15-year-old got to put a message that got buried under the labyrinth, because it was, actually I did too, we got to carve it in clay. And so there are lots of messages up underneath the labyrinth. And I just wanted to say that was really a magical moment for both of us. Well, he was 14 at the time when we were there. So the labyrinth is pretty fabulous. So
It's fabulous. So here's a story about that. This will help you release attachments to the way the village used to be. There was a guy the other day, just a couple weeks ago, standing there furious, saying, "What is this labyrinth doing here?" And fortunately, I was not the person who had to talk to him. I mean, it's the showpiece of the campus. No, there used to be a beautiful fountain here. What happened to the fountain? Why was it taken away? Okay, I was in ministerial school 25 years ago, and that fountain was dead. So I don't know how long it had been since he was on campus, but he had a real trouble accepting any changes whatsoever from what he remembered. And I just think about how many times has it changed since the Fillmores started out with tents in the mud. You know, it has needed to change through the years. At some point they added air conditioning. At some point they added elevators. Different buildings have been used for different purposes on and off. And so this is just the current iteration. But we are very proud of the labyrinth. And he finally, I think, was mollified, but he really missed his fountain. And I was just floored. Okay. Yep. All right. Okay, last chance for questions. I think I saw Shad come on.
Yeah,
So
so thank you, Ellen. We really appreciate you. Are you gonna stay with us for the rest of this in case something else comes up that's relative to you? That'd be great. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, well, hello, everyone. Good to be here. Good to see you all. Thank you for having me be a part of this experience. I'm going to primarily talk about the education redesign for UWSI, since it's probably about all we have time for. And then I'll take the Q&A around that. If you don't know who I am, I'm Reverend Shad Groveland. I'm the president and CEO of Unity Worldwide Ministries. And I'm going to share a PowerPoint. I'll go through that PowerPoint and then I'll wrap it up and we'll come back here and open it up for questions. So if you can hang on to the PowerPoint, just take some notes, whatever you might have, and then we'll get to those questions after that. All right, so away we go. All right, I assume everyone can see my PowerPoint. Everyone's gonna nod their head so I can tell. Yes, good, all right. All right, so I just wanna be very clear up front. We're talking about UWSI education redesign, not about the urban school. We'll touch on a little bit of how this might affect the urban school, but we're talking about UWSI, just so we're clear. Okay. So I do want to preface up front, you're going to see some things that are, some of them still in the works. So you're going to see some titles of classes, experiences that may change before the actual launch of the program next year. But these are working titles. These are what we have so far. So it should be close, but don't hold us to exact names if things change later on. We do reserve the right to change our mind. Okay, so why did we bother redesigning UWSI? Well, a few things. First, a decrease in students. We've had less people applying to the ministerial and LET paths. We've had a decrease in students and such that we've had to cancel some of the classes that were going to be offered because of low attendance. There's also a lack of interest from younger generations. We don't see younger folks applying to the program, at least at UWSI, and we think that should be something we should address. I do exit interviews with each of the ordinands when they get ordained. And part of those exit interviews, I've been gathering a lot of data and similarities of what people were saying about the program, of how it could be improved. So a lot of that is included in this. And over the last 2 years, we did extensive work with various volunteer teams from the field, ministers, licensed new teachers, lay people, to get their feedback on the program, to get their feedback on the different design elements we've been working on. So all of those have been included in this as well. And then fundamentally, the world is changing. So as things change, like Ellen was saying, the property changes, the schools change, things change. So we are making adjustments to stay up with what's happening in the world. Some of our intentions going into design were to create a unique Unity seminary. I say this because we already have an amazing Unity seminary with the urban school. And what we were noticing is that the schools were becoming more similar, which makes it somewhat irrelevant to have two schools. So part of the real redesign was to really have the intention of making this a different and unique school than the urban school, so that it's a different offering for people to choose from, and to make it accessible to some people that might be looking for something different than what the urban school already does very well. We also want to make it immersive, experiential, and less academic. So this program is going to be less focused on tests and papers, and more focused on experience and immersive experiences. It's going to be based on demonstration to show that you've learned what you're ready to move on with, as opposed to you passed a test or you wrote a paper. We're designing it to create great Unity leaders for today's world. We know the world has shifted, so we want to shift how some of these classes are working so you're going to be ready for the world you're going into. We heard a lot of feedback for decades about people wanting the on-site elements to come back. Maybe not decades, but for many, many years, people wanted the on-site elements of the school to come back on-site at Unity Village. So some of that will be coming back. Then we want to clarify the field path and special dispensation. A lot of confusion around who can go into the field path, why people go into the field path, is it still necessary? Even more confusion around special dispensation, about who goes into special dispensation, why do they go into it, how does it work, stuff like this. We want to clarify that in the process as well. All right, so first thing to note, there will be new UWSI prerequisites. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So UWSI will move away from the SEE courses as its prerequisite courses. A new form of prerequisite classes will be designed. Those are going to be designed the fall of 2024. They will be immersive, experiential, flexible, and accessible. So they're going to reflect more of what the UWSI program itself is going to look like to prepare people for what they're going to experience in those paths. We're designed to be able to be completed in 1 year. So someone can finish all of their prerequisites in 1 year, having taken their very first class to finishing their very last class in that single year. And they'll be the same prerequisites for all UWSI leadership paths, whether that's a licensed Unity teacher or the ministerial path, they'll have the same exact prerequisites. So these are what the prerequisites are going to look like. We'll have immersive experiences, and these are the working titles for now. You'll have Unity teachings, Bible immersion, Unity in action, metaphysics and interpretation will be included in that, self-development, and then 3 trainings. The UWM overview, which is already currently offered, and the Power of Focus Ministry workshop, which obviously you know is already offered, and then a discernment course for folks to help them understand and decide what form of ministry they'd like to be going into once they get ordained. So this is a prerequisite. So even before they apply for a ministerial LUT path, they will have gone through a discernment process to decide first, do they want to be an LUT or a minister? And if it's a ministerial path, what kind of minister do they want to be? So that can be a part of their training process and a part of their plan going forward. We recognize that's going to shift while they're in the program, but we want them to at least enter with an idea of the form of ministry that they're interested in. All right, so this is what the prerequisite yearly schedule will look like. So we got summer, fall, we got winter and spring. All 4 of those immersion experiences you saw on the previous slide will be offered each season. So a student can take those any time of year so that it's more accessible. They don't have to wait till the fall to take one. they can take those any time of year. The UWM overview course you see is already offered in the fall and the spring. So they'll have 2 times a year that they can take that course. And the Power Focus Ministry will be offered at least at the UWM convention and at annual summit. If we're still traveling it, obviously it'd be still offered around the country different times, but they can at least get it at those 2 spots. And then the discernment course has a question mark next to it because we haven't decided where that's going to be, but the intention that it would be towards the end of their prerequisite courses so that they have the time to have some experience and then start to decide what kind of ministry they want to go into. That would be probably offered multiple times in the year as well, so people have access to it at different times. So that's just the prerequisite year we're looking at there. Now let's talk about the new LUT path for UWSI. Looking at what were our intentions going into this design, we wanted to determine what LUTs really need to learn to be a licensed Unity teacher. Looking at what we had right now, some of the things they take, we got feedback from LUTs that they were more ministerial in a way and not necessarily what they needed as LUTs. So we looked at that. We want to create a clear and concise path to licensing. So some of the exit reviews talked about, it was very confusing figuring out what classes to take when and where and how this went to that. So we want to make it very clear and concise on how you get to licensing. And we want to bring it back being focused on only teaching and leadership development. So licensed Unity teachers, really their focus is to be teaching classes. And so we want the program to really train them for teaching those classes and developing future leaders. Again, we want to make it immersive, experiential, and accessible. And it's going to be a cohort program able to be completed in 2 years. So if you're not familiar with the term cohort program, that means that these students are going to go into it at the same time, and they're going to travel from class to class at the same time together. So people will not opt in and out of classes that they want to take when they want to take them. Once they enter the cohort, they move with that cohort through the entire program together. So let's get more into the LUT path. So looking at year 1 of the LUT path, so this would come after they finish their prerequisite year. This would be year 1 of the LUT path. The cohort would start in the summer at a UWM convention. So that would be their first time, their first class, would be during the summer. So they would enter that class, which would be support for the soul. They go into the next class of family systems and inclusivity, then practical Christianity, then inspirational messaging. That cohort would then go into their second year. They'd have adult education, the art of teaching, leadership development, and online learning as a training program. So they're all cycling through these courses together as a cohort. So this is what the LUT path would look like from start to finish. You'd have your prerequisite year, then go into LUT path year 1, LUT path year 2, and then you'd be licensed at that phase. So the plan is that you could do the entire program in 3 years from start to finish. Let's now talk about the ministerial path, which would be the other option. So again, what were the intentions for this? We wanted to determine what ministers really need to learn in this program and really refine what is necessary for them to learn and pay more attention to that. We want to create a clear and concise path to ordination. Again, we talked to students that were having a rough time figuring out what classes they needed to take, when they needed to take them, how many credits they had to have, etc. This is also going to be a program, a cohort program with a mentor, and this will actually have on-site elements. Again, able to be completed in 2 years. So let's look at what that looks like. So this is their year 1 for the ministerial path. Starting as a cohort, they would start at the UWM convention, and that will be this year, coming year, 2024 convention will be our first cohort group starting. They will be on site at Unity Village for that week. They will integrate into some elements of convention, but mostly be there for intensive and on-site trainings and to get to know each other, as this is the first time they're going to meet in person. Following convention, they'll start their first class, which will be support for the soul. Then they'll go into family systems and inclusivity. And then teaching skills will begin with them coming on site again to Unity Village during annual summit, the week of annual summit. Again, they might integrate a little bit into annual summit, but primarily they're here to do intensive and on-site work together as a team. Then they'll go into inspirational messaging in the spring. Then they're back on site for UWM convention for a week at Unity Village the following year for their second year. Then they'll go into ministry administration, and they'll go into care and connections and leadership development. Marketing and technology will begin with them doing another on-site at annual summit during that week together. And they'll go into spring ministry integration. Then they would be ordained at the next convention following that spring, going into that next summer. So this is the ministerial path as we see it, a 3-year program. Your prerequisite year is your first year. Then you go to ministerial path year 1, ministerial path year 2, and then you are ordained. Further information, we've had some questions come in about this program, so we want to address what we have had come in so far. So the new program launches at June Convention 2024, like I stated. Interested students must have their paperwork in by November 1st of this year to meet the deadline for March 2024 admissions. In this new program, the Master's of Divinity element is going to go away. We're going to let go of that aspect. And also going away will be the bachelor degree requirement or equivalency. So right now, to enter the program, you have to have a bachelor degree or equivalency to enter the program. That was primarily for the MDiv. So since we're letting go of the MDiv, we're going to let that go as well. So people can come in right from wherever they are, start taking classes in the prerequisites, and then go straight into the path they're going to take, licensed unit teacher or ministerial. Current students that are already in the program at UWSI will finish out as planned, as they already are going, or if they choose, they could possibly roll into one of the new cohorts. They're going to be worked with on an individual basis with Reverend Diane Benzera and her team. They're reaching out to each of these students, and they'll make sure that they're taken care of either to transition to a new program or finish out the program as they're currently doing. So the field path will merge into the new program. It will no longer be a standalone program of its own. It will roll into this program. The special dispensation students will also join this program and do it like everyone else does. Certain students will be able to test out of the prerequisite courses only, but everyone will do the ministerial program or LET program in its entirety together. So if someone has previous experience, they might be able to test out on prerequisite classes, but everyone's going to do the full cohort 2 years together. Current SEE classes will transfer over to UWSI for now. So since we have not we got a mic open and some chatting happening, but I'll keep going. Since we have not designed the new prerequisite courses, they won't be designed until fall 2024. During that time, we'll still use SEE classes as our prerequisites. Okay, currently licensed unit teachers can have a focus of either administration, youth and family ministry, or chaplaincy. In the new program, all licensed unit teachers will do the exact same classes and move through together as a cohort. The specialties of administration, youth and family, and chaplaincy will become their own side certification, just like the certifications we have in integral mission-centric ministry, UWM spirit groups, spiritual direction, and advanced metaphysics offered through UUMS. So they will take a side course to get certified in administration, youth and family, or chaplaincy if that's an interest they have, but every LUT will be taking the same classes and moving through the program together. The cohort size will be 10 to 15 students maximum. If we have more students than that, then we'll start a new cohort. Let me take a sip here. So the cost for the ministerial path currently looks like it's going to be comparable to the current program we have now. The cost for the LET path will increase a bit because their program is getting expanded out and with more things included. Also, along with this, we're working to unify credentialing for UWSI, UUMS, and the international schools. Right now, the international schools have their own credentialing process. So we want to start to unify everyone meeting the same standards, regardless of what school they go through. And to just clarify, the credentialing standard sets the benchmark that the schools train students for. So UUMS can offer different classes than UWSI offers because both classes are just designed to help the student reach the final credentialing benchmark to get licensed and ordained. So some people ask, is UUMS going to adopt this system? They've got their own system, their own way of training students to meet this credentialing requirement. UWSI will have its own way. And now we're trying to get the international schools and we're working with them to also meet the same requirements that we're meeting domestically. All right. So for more information and updates, you can contact Reverend Diane Benzera if you have direct questions about things that are happening. We also have a page on our website that is being updated as the changes are being made. If you want to check back in and see what's happening with the program, where it is in that process. And then coming up, I hope you saw we have a UWM Town Hall, which is something we're going to do in the fall and spring of every year to give you updates on what's happening, give you a sounding board to ask us direct questions about things that are happening. So we'll be going into more detail for the education redesign there as well to address some more questions we might receive between now and then. So if you submit questions to us now before that, we can actually address those at that town hall, or you can address them during the Q&A. So you have the dates for that there. And so make sure you're going to be a part of that, because that'll be the next place. And if you're coming up with questions or you talk to people and they have questions, just let them know that's dates coming and they can come and bring them to that. All right. It's absolutely frigid in my office right now, so I'm shivering. So if it sounds like my voice is shaking, I'm literally shivering right now. So that's not nervousness. It's me trying to stay warm. Okay. All right. So that is the end of the UWSI redesign, and I am here for questions. Am I calling raised hands, or is someone else calling raised hands?
Yes. Hi, Shad.
Paul.
Can you hear me?
I can.
I have a couple questions. I'll do them one at a time so other people could come in. In your design, you have something in the curriculum called Unity Teachings, and then elsewhere you have metaphysics / interpretation. What is the difference between Unity Teachings and metaphysics?
That'll be designed by the design team itself when they put those classes together that they're working on right now. For me, I would say Unity Teachings might include our history and foundational teachings, and then metaphysics interpretation will be more of the Bible metaphysics and interpretation of the biblical text and things like that. So I don't know how they're going to separate them out, but that is how they've worded them at this time. And again, those titles might change as they finalize those classes.
Yes, and it makes it sound like the foundational teachings aren't metaphysics, and they are.
They are indeed. And again, how they name them is going to be probably shifting over time, or what that goes. But that's not an indication that say that something is or something isn't. It's just that's how it's being called at this point as they start to design the classes.
Okay, I want to say one more thing. In
Sure.
all my years of teaching, people have made the conclusion that metaphysical Bible interpretation is metaphysics. And I just want to make a stand here. They are distinct but related things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy.
Thank you. I have a few questions. I'm trying to understand the whole cohort thing. Because say life happens, there's a plot twist in someone's life and they're enrolled in a cohort. And then there's, say, a death in the family or a divorce or a multitude of things that can happen on people's paths.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if they need to stop, and how do they, and they can't continue, say, for the next round? Are they automatically enrolled in that next cohort, or do they have to sit it out? And what if there's 15 people in that next cohort? Do they have to wait even longer to come back in? Like, how is that going to work?
Well, that's the great thing about having a mentor. So you have one mentor that's working with each cohort. So not a mentor per student, but a mentor with each cohort. And that could be a conversation with the cohort and the mentor about how do we want to handle this situation with this person. Since it's going to be a tight family type dynamic, everyone could be involved in what's going to be the best solution for that individual. And the mentor probably would have a large say in what they think is going to be best for that individual, because they have been working with them for whatever amount of time they've already been working with them. That's what I really love about this program, is having that mentor in place, working with that group to really be overseeing the progress of each individual student where they are, what's happening in their personal life, and taking that into consideration as they move forward. So we can't design a program for that outstanding circumstance if someone has a life event. It's just going to have to be handled per person during that time to see what's going to work best for them. I wouldn't want to say that there's a blanket thing that this is what we do. I'd really like to say, is this a 1 week thing? Is this a 2 week thing? Is this a 3-year thing? It would really depend on what's happening in their life and how we want to handle that for the best development of them and to handle the situation they're currently going through.
Thank you. And then I also have a question about the change in the SEE, because so many of our churches have SEE events that are well attended, and it's also a source of revenue. Also, LUTs teach SEE classes. Also a source of revenue for us as well. How is that going to work within the new structure? Especially where it's coming up. It's coming up soon. I mean, June of 24 is not, it's 8 months away. So, so I have questions about that, and also about.
Can I answer that question real quick? Because
sure.
I don't usually have a memory for 2 questions. I don't want to waste your time. Let me get to that real quick. So you can teach your SE weeks all through next year, because the new prerequisites aren't getting designed until the fall of next year. So if you've got SE weeks you're scheduling for next year, those are going to still be used as the prerequisites for this program until the new prerequisites are designed in the fall of next year. The urban school, it will be up to Reverend Sandra and her team to decide if they're going to stick with the SE classes as their prerequisites still. So that still need to be their prerequisite courses. The new prerequisite courses we're going to design, we'll be training our LUTs on how to teach those courses as well, so you can teach them in the field. So once they're designed, we'll be having train the trainer sessions to be able to train all you all, so you can still teach those prerequisites in ministries or wherever you are as well. So the income opportunity is not going away. The opportunity to teach the classes is not going away. If anything, there would be more opportunities with the new prerequisites to teach along with SEE. Part of our intention is we'd like to see which SE classes are really tailored specifically for a licensed unity teacher ministerial path, and which ones are really just tailored for self-development for congregants. If they are just self-development for congregants, then they wouldn't necessarily need to be taught for credit, and they could just be taught in ministries as self-development classes. Ones that are taught for credit might be more migrated into the new prerequisite classes because they're really specific to that LUT or ministerial path. And we know we have congregants that say, I'm not interested in credit, I just want to take the class. So they might just be there for that class. Okay, what's your second question?
I think that you might have kind of answered it, because I guess, we have people that are like halfway on the path, or that have just started taking SEE classes. And again, thinking of I just want to make sure that they have plenty of time to finish. Like they don't have to, it's not like they've got to finish on steroids in the next 8 months in order to be complete.
No. And if they are interested, it's a good time to be talking to the credentialing team, Diana Mazzara and her team, just to say, here's where we are. I'm interested in the cohort. I would like to be already by this time and really start getting on that path. If they're close enough to having that conversation to do that. So some students are just about done with their prerequisites, but they want to be in the next cohort. So they're reaching out to Diane and say, what can I do so I don't miss this next round? What's possible? And she's working with different students individually on if they want to make it, but there's not a rush. So they can still take their credits all through next year. They still might even decide to go to the urban school or UWSI. That'll be up to them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good questions.
Chris.
Okay. My journey has been a long one. I started studying to become an LUT in 2001. I had a full-time job working a 60-hour week as a teacher, and I had a kid and a family to raise. And I knew that this was something that I had to do. My first question concerns the cohorts and the time constraints. on people that are leading busy lives, that have other work that they're doing. They still want to do this. They're still pursuing this, but they have to set some time aside to work, earn a living, and have a family. One of the reasons that I chose to go into UUMS, and I'm a second-year student there, just beginning the second year, was the asynchronous classes that I can do the work at my own pace, in my own way. And this cohort sounds like it's more designed for people that are going to go full time. So my question is, how are they planning for people's busy lives? How are they planning for people that have full and rich lives and still want to do this?
So the first thing I'd like to point out is I'm just like you. I was in a very similar situation, wound up at the urban school, had an incredible experience that met the needs I had at the time. Again, we're not trying to compete with the urban school. They are a great resource and they do an awesome job at what they do. So really part of the design plan was to be something different, specifically to be something different for a different type of student. As I did exit interviews, it's very clearly there were different types of students at different places in their life that had different needs. So we could design a school to meet some of those students that weren't getting their needs. The urban school wasn't a good match for them, but the urban school is a great match for people like myself and you, where that's what we needed at that time. Second thing to consider is that these cohort classes are one class at a time. So when you saw that summer class, fall class, that is, you're taking one class at a time. So you're meeting, if it's a class that meets twice a week, you're just meeting Tuesday and Thursday, and that's it. And you're only doing homework for that one class at a time. So that cohort comes together and they take a class. You'll have different elements in that class. You might even have different teachers come in to give you teaching on a different perspective or a different topic during that class, but it is one class. So we do know that if you're taking 5 classes at a time, 4 classes at a time, that's a lot when you have a full-time job or you're already in a pulpit ministry. That's why we've made it one class at a time, unless you decide to do a side class or side certification on your own, whatever that might be. So you can move through this program and it is accessible to you. We don't have a giant class load that you're trying to do all these things. So those two things that, yes, people will look at the schools and decide which one's a better fit for me. And we want that to happen. We want that to be a part of the discernment process. So there's not competition between the schools. It's just very clear, oh, this works for me or this one works for me. Right now, we do see students that try to juggle both programs to try to get the best out of each. Well, I'll take this class there, I'll take this class here. Would you guys give me it cheaper if I did this, that, and the other thing? We really want them to be distinctly different schools for a different type of student.
And thank you. My second question applies to the certification. I had wanted the LUT path for pastoral care so that I could go into some form of pastoral care outside of my ministry. And I butted up against a brick wall there with reverends taking the CE, what are they called? They're not CEUs, but whatever the units are that of study, those jobs were being grabbed by people that had already been working in the military for 20 years and now wanted to do this in retirement. And that was one of my underlying factors in deciding to become a minister, was that I was competing unfairly, I think, in some ways. So my question about the certifications for the LUTs, I can't speak to the other paths, but what employment opportunities, how are the students that are in those class cohorts being prepared to for employment opportunities in terms of being of service, but still making a living?
So in general, for LUTs, we're trying to make it more employable and more viable because we're detaching the concept that they need to be attached to a ministry and they need to answer to a ministry. Our goal is to shift the concept of a licensed teacher to be more of a freelance independent contractor that can work with multiple ministries, either in a town or online virtually. That was part of the reason they now have their own independent vote. So they are an independent member of Unity Worldwide Ministries. So they can act more like a freelance individual, because we have ministers in towns that one ministry might have 5 LUTs and the other ministry has no LUTs, and they don't share them. And this just boggles my mind. So we really want to free up the LUTs to be able to bounce around and teach classes wherever they can teach classes, assist ministries wherever they can assist ministries, whatever skill sets they have. So if they have a certification that's useful to multiple ministries, they should be out helping multiple ministries. There's no sense that they should be tied to a particular ministry if they could be helping multiple ministries. So that hopefully is going to address what you're talking about and make them more employable, if you will, more of a resource to anyone who might need that skill set.
Yes, that works inside Unity. I'm not sure how it works outside of Unity. That was my part of my issue, was that this was not under the umbrella or control of Unity. This was in a larger community.
Sure. By not being an accredited program, we
Yeah,
don't really make that accessible. So that was part of the reason we let go of the MDiv. It's not accredited. It wasn't really recognized outside of Unity. So it wasn't serving those needs. There's other New Thought schools that are accredited where people could go there and get that Master's of Divinity and be able to use it outside. So we didn't need to compete with that or try to duplicate that. Just let them do what they do well.
okay, thank you.
Lori?
Good morning.
Morning.
Sit here in my internship in my 3rd year of UWSI, and I have questions, not as much for myself, for future students. One is, I didn't hear any mention, and not that it's necessarily a part of the planning for a program, but will there still be progress interviews if we are in the experiential courses being theoretically then demonstrating your mastery of something? So will there still be progress interviews? And that's just my first question.
Not in the traditional sense that I think we see them now. What the opportunity is that these students now are going to be building a portfolio as they go through classes. And with the new software, we have Canva. As they complete projects and as they do activities, that actually is going to be loaded into their portfolio, which is they're building out throughout their entire class time. A portfolio that can be handed to a team to look at and analyze how things are going. But more importantly, the mentor is seeing the progress of these students. And really, if someone's falling behind in something, the mentor should be addressing it before the person's getting to their approval to be ordained and finding out, no, you're not ready. So by having that mentor in place, not only would the mentor be watching how the students are progressing, but also representing these students for ordination. So instead of having possibly a group of people that don't know these students and are seeing them for the first time, you have the mentor presenting students that they are knowing very well and very familiar with to say, I'm basically vouching for these students because I've worked with them. So we want to shift that dynamic so that it's people that know the students are really analyzing, are they ready for ordination? Because you hear a lot of feedback that it's, I had a group of people, they didn't know me. I just kind of was nervous. I didn't say the right thing. And next thing I know, I'm getting redirected. So it's really, well, let's have someone who's been with them for the entire program really presenting the case and representing and standing for them. So what that specifically looks like at that moment in time, I don't know yet. Reverend Diane and her team probably have more information on that. So at the town hall, that might be a good question because she'll be on that call. But I do know that we want to put more emphasis on the mentor representing the student's success.
Yeah, thank you for that. And in the prerequisites, and even in the 2 years of the cohort specifically, this is a question regarding the ministerial program again. I did not see anything that looked like it would be including training in pastoral counseling.
So some of these general headings are going to have a lot of other things underneath them. So like I said, you might have a class that says, Unity history, whatever it might be called, in that there's going to be a lot of elements within that are touched on. So you might have pastoral counseling, a part of another heading that's more general, and you're going to have a segment of that class where a teacher comes in to talk about pastoral counseling. So it would be a pastoral counseling class. That element's going to be taught in this experiential class in the winter or the summer, or whenever it is, under that general heading. So you have more generalized headings that are cover topics within those weeks.
Okay, because that's definitely a very experiential subject.
Indeed.
And then my last question / comment, I guess this is more, when you said that the cost of the proposed, of the new program is comparative to what it currently is, yet ministerial students are being required to travel to the village twice a year, 2 years. Has that cost been factored into the comparative same to what it is today? And similar to, I believe it was Chris was the woman who spoke before me, just the factor of that, where's self-care is going to be a very important topic for individuals in the program. We know it's a part of our ethics, and I could see where it will be. It's a challenge for self-care when you're taking the classes full-time from home and maybe even working part-time, or some people I've seen people do it full-time. I think that adds another layer of complexity to self-care. Just my comment on that.
Okay. And remember, you're only taking one class at a time during that week. So in terms of the complexity, it could be less. And the on-site elements, so coming on site to Unity Village would be a prime place to really do the self-care work where the people are together. They can do some of those physical activities together for self-care. The lodging for the on-sites is going to be covered by the cost of the program itself. So that's not going to be a direct out-of-pocket for the students. We've worked out with Unity Village to try to get some Airbnb space that UWM would cover. So when the students come, they cover their flights, and that the lodging would be covered by the program itself. But yes, that cost has been included in it. And the exact numbers, we'll talk more about town hall. Reverend Diane's working out right now. Gave me the rough numbers, but we don't want to give out those numbers until she can get it more clear at the town hall. Next up.
Becca.
Hi. I have an LUT candidate who just entered the leadership program in our congregation. And you had mentioned before that the path that she's on really hasn't changed. I do have a question about that, because she seems to have a concern that before, the classes were offered in blocks of 1 week at a time, all 4 classes. And apparently, I guess that's not the case anymore. I know when I went through the program, that was also the case. But that apparently has changed. The classes aren't given that way anymore. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what you're speaking of. Talking about her, she's taking the prerequisite SEE classes. She's in the LUT program.
She got accepted into leadership development, and she's under the old, the way that it has been. And so right now she's concerned because when the classes were offered 4 classes at once in a 1 week block, so that she could do all of those leadership development classes in that block of 1 week, that then left a couple of months in between for her to be able to be taking anything else she needed to do, or her reports, her Toastmasters, all of the other prerequisites, her other teaching classes, and all of the other things that she needed to do. That gave her time in between to do it. So she's concerned that now, because the classes are not offered in a block of all 4 classes in 1 week, that she now has to do the classes concurrently with doing all of these other things. And she's feeling that she's going to have to step back from her law practice to do this because she's not going to be able to manage her time. So my question right now is, I just want clarification on that. Has that changed, and what is it now? It's not a block of 1 week with 4 classes anymore?
I honestly don't know what her plan is or how her program's working out for her. The best thing is for her to reach out to Reverend Diane if she's got questions about this, or she probably already has a mentor she's working with or a guidance counselor in that program. I'm not sure what she's going through right now. I don't have the current LUT program in front of me. So, or she could come to the town hall. We're going to have the entire staff on that meeting, and she can ask her question there if she has a specific question she'd like to have addressed that she hasn't had answered yet. But I can't speak to that, unfortunately, right now. I don't know.
Okay, so I'll have to talk to her about that. My other question is that this also is because the last SDS is next fall. She is going to have to make all of these requirements. She's just gotten into the leadership development portion, so she's going to have to meet all of the requirements to actually become licensed, be ready for the SDS by next fall. So my question is, that is also when the whole new training is starting, is for the LUT people who are already licensed to be able to teach the new classes. Is she going to have to go through that too, having just finished the program, or is that going to be somehow incorporated into what she's doing now?
Again, the best thing to do is because each student, depending on where they are in the program, is going to have a conversation with the education team on how to finish out that program or where they're going to do next. Depending on where she is, what she's got going on, that's the conversation she needs to have with Reverend Diane and her team. Because I don't know the specifics of everyone's particular situation on where they are, where they're going next, what might work for them. We want to make a solution that's going to work for them so that they finish out, if I'm hearing your question correctly, so they finish out as smoothly as possible. It's best for her just to talk directly to that team and work on what does she need to do or what's going to be her plan going forward.
Okay, thank you.
So, Shad, we have a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay.
But let's call on Paul, and then I'll field the questions to you.
All right.
Shad, this is a clarification.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've heard or what I've read is as of June of 2024, the SEE classes cannot be taught for credit. Is that true?
That is not true. So remember, the urban school is still based on the SEE classes. What Reverend Sandra Campbell decides to do for prerequisites is up to her and their school. So those can still be taught for credit. I haven't heard otherwise from Reverend Sandra Campbell. I know she's met with Reverend Diane to discuss what they want to do in that, but as far as I've heard, they're still staying with the SEE classes. And then those classes will transfer over into the new program to the end of next year until we design the new prerequisite classes. And then
Till the end of 2024?
So the new prerequisites will be designed in the fall of 2024, and we'll start training for that. So yes, to the end of 2024, those would still be able to transfer.
So then those classes can be taught for all of 2024.
I would say go ahead. If you have plans to teach those in 2024, teach those in 2024.
Okay, so you're not anticipating any gap in what teachers, licensed teachers and myself to teach between the old program and the new program. There won't be a time when teaching SEE classes for UWSI purposes. There will be no gap between the two. We'll be able to teach the new classes in January of 2024.
The new, you mean 2025?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Trying to wrap my head around the years here.
That was a trick question, Chad.
Okay, I hope I passed. So I don't know when the rollout of the training the trainers is going to happen. So I don't want to say definitively that is what's going to happen, that there will be no gap. They're going to design the program. They're going to start the train-the-trainer process. They'll train people to teach the new prerequisites. So I don't have an answer for that. I'm going to write down that question so that we can address it at the town hall. Does that work for you?
Sure. Next question is related. Is UWM going to decide who can and who cannot teach those classes?
I'm just finished writing what you just said.
Sorry.
Okay. Only in that if they will have to have done the train-the-trainer process to teach those classes.
Okay, so anyone can take the train-the-trainer classes.
That is the intention. So as long as they're trained to teach those train-the-trainer classes, because we want to have a standardization that those prerequisites roll in properly into the new program so that everyone's teaching them with the same outcomes, the same metrics.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have quite a number of questions in the chat. Will the classes be available in the evening and on different time zones? For example, are they going to be in the middle of the day, Central Time?
They will not. So remember that so let me clarify. The urban school is primarily an asynchronous program. So that is a program where you get your homework assignments beginning of the week. You do that work when you have time to do it. You have to have it submitted by the end of the week. And then you don't necessarily have a class time where you need to come together. You're going to integrate online with your students at your own pace. That's really what that program is designed for, people that might need that accessibility. The new UWSI program is going to have a specific class time where people meet. I don't know what those times are going to be. That's going to be dependent on the teacher and the cohort, probably figuring out those times, what works best for them. So I don't know if they'll be during the night, during the day, but it's not going to be multiple times for multiple different time zones. It will be a set time each week for a set time zone. I don't know when that will be because, again, it'll depend on the teacher and the cohort of what works for that group. Did that answer your question? I guess it's a written question, so it's
Yeah.
okay. I hope it did.
How will mentors be chosen, and will they be full-time UWSI employees?
The mentors are going to be paid individuals. I would imagine they're going to be contractor, not full-time UWM employees, based on they're not going to be working a full-time load at this time as we're planning it out. More probably details on that to come as the pricing is worked out by Reverend Diane and her team, and that is all clarified.
Okay, we've got a long one here. I'm trying to scroll through it and see.
Okay.
Diane Vanzera told UWSI faculty that the students will be watched by us, UWM and mentors, and we will watch everything they do while they are at convention, on campus, and on social media. On that call, faculty requested that there be downtime. I'm not sure. I guess the request is to have some downtime for people, how to determine that sort of thing.
Well, faculty is not going to be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm not sure what the question is. There will be gaps. So when you see those winter, spring, summer, and fall, it's not going to be like one class ends on Sunday, the next class starts on Monday. There will be some gaps in between those. And if they're referring specifically to when they're on site, I'm sure there would be downtime. I'm not exactly sure what the question's asking because
the rest of it said will the watchers use a standardized tool for what they're watching and evaluating? And they're mentioning this in the context of the question about L&O progress interviews, and wondering what kind of culture the new iteration is wanting to cultivate by using phrases like "we will be watching everything they do."
I don't think we have the resources to watch everything anybody does. So that's absolutely not going to be happening. But that's a great question. I go ahead and bring that to the town hall when Reverend Diane's there with the team, and she could answer that question because I wasn't in that call. I didn't hear what was said. And so I'm not sure what we're referring to. I mean, I get the gist of it, but I didn't hear the wording.
as someone coming to the end of the spiritual direction course, working with a cohort and specific class schedules, I'm very excited for this change as it feels more obtainable to me. So
Awesome.
I don't think that's a question, that's a comment.
All right. I accept. Thank you.
Okay. So some of these other questions I think are so specific that they probably need to come to the town hall. That's just my evaluation at this point. But if there's somebody who feels like they have to have an answer right now, would you raise your hand? We only have a couple more minutes for Shad's portion of this. Any raised hands? Edith.
Okay, so, hey Shad, so, in regards to the licensed teachers who, licensed teacher candidates who are in class right now, I have, someone in my ministry that just started this fall, and they are not doing the intensives like we have done for decades upon decades. They take one class at a time. It's in the evening, and it's evening per Central Time, which means it's later at night Eastern Time. And then they take one class, and then they get done with that class, and then they take the next class. And so I can understand what Rebecca was asking about her person who's a lawyer, and it didn't seem like it was a choice. It was the way that it's done now. And my guess is because they're only one class at a time, that they'll be taking classes for the whole year.
So is your question about the new program or the current program?
No, I'm talking about the current LUT program right now. I was just clarifying because you didn't know whether or not they were doing the intensives or not. And I was saying that I have someone in my congregation who's currently in that program as it is today.
Okay.
And so they take one class at a time, 2 nights, 2 evenings a week. And then when they finish that 5 or 6 weeks, then I don't know if there's any downtime, but then they take another class and another class until, so my guess is if they're still taking 12 classes that was taken in 3 weeks before, that they're now taking 12 classes spread out over a year, which would make it a little challenging for people who are working. So I wanted to make that statement. And then the other statement I have is around the SEE classes. Number one is, since the current SEE classes can be taught by us in the field, are we also going to be able to register them at UWSI like we've done in the past?
Clarify what you mean by register them.
Okay, so if we were teaching a SEE class, we send our we register with the registrar saying we're teaching metaphysics 1 and 2 from X date to X date, and then they put it on the UWSI website so that people around the country and the world could then go and register. It's been a great source of having more students in the class from all around, but also revenue for churches, licensed teachers, and ministers.
So you're talking about with the new prerequisite classes, will they be like the SEE classes where they're
I'm talking about the SE classes right now that you just said, Shad, that we can teach until the end of next year.
So nothing around those classes is changing until the new prerequisites are designed. So whatever you've done now will continue through next year until we have the new prerequisites. So if you're talking about when if you had an SE week that was announced in the UWM connections, it'd be still announced in there, wherever it went.
We'll still have it online. The way you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that the way they have been advertised through UWSI will still happen until the new program is ready to roll.
I'll verify with the team to make sure that's happening, but I have not heard that that's not happening or that anything in that area is changing.
Okay. And then as far as these SEE prerequisites, and I heard you say that each prerequisite, there are 4 of them. I think it's 4, I forgot. But I guess I'm wondering how, if you have like unity, let's say if it's lessons in truth, discover the power, prosperity, some of the, courses that we've been teaching for a very long time. How are they going to fit into like one structured class? Are people going to have to take like all of these books or something? Or do we have any clue at all what it is?
My thought would be, what is it you wanted them to get out of those books? And that's what the class would be designed to teach. That's what they'd be more concerned about getting across. Not necessarily, did you take a class on this book with this author, but what is it out of these books you wanted to get? And so we might be grabbing something from this book, something from that book, because there's a general concept we want you to get out of these books going through this process. So the SEE classes were a little bit more structured to this thing. And we're moving away from that. We want to be more experiential, a more integrated process where we're covering topics here. These are the things we want you to learn across this topic. It may not be based on this one book or this one specific Unity thing that's going to pull a bunch of things together to get an output that we want you to have, which might be an understanding of metaphysics. Where we pull from to teach you about metaphysics might come from multiple different sources, or it's financials. We might be pulling from different areas of financial stuff, not just one specific book or one specific idea. We want an overall concept taught to you that might be pulled from different areas to get there. So it won't be as one-to-one as we might have been used to with the SE classes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm starting to get it. And I'm also wondering about people who are new to Unity when they come in, like myself. When I came in, I was in my late 30s, but I was curious, and and I was told, take lessons in truth and then discover the power, blah, 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 blah. When we have people who are new to Unity and they're curious, then, I'm really wondering, how do we do that if we don't have something like the books and whatnot that were in CEP and SEE and whatnot? I don't know if you have an answer to that. I'm just really wondering, how do we move people, along on their spiritual journey when we won't have what we had?
So you will still have what you have, because the SE classes, whether they're for credit or not, still can be taught in ministries, as I mentioned before, the self-development or spiritual enrichment of the congregants themselves. So a new person coming in probably isn't right away looking for credit towards becoming a licensed unity teacher or minister. They're looking to learn the foundational concepts of unity. So it's lessons in truth, it's discover the power within you, it's these different things. So SEE classes could become more of those self-improvement classes, self-help classes, spiritual development classes in the ministry for those congregants, not necessarily for a path to leadership. Until they say, yes, I'm ready, I would like to start taking classes for credit. Then they look at the prerequisites requirements for UWSI or the prerequisite requirements for the urban school and start heading in that direction.
So Shad, we need to move along because we're now into urban schools time. Would you say that you would just encourage people to plan to come to the town hall, and or if they have really specific questions for people who have specific needs, to have them reach out to Diane Vanzera?
You nailed it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask, so thank you, Shad. Thank you, everyone, for your great questions. And we're going to invite Reverend Sandra Campbell to share with us.
Well, hello, everyone. It's good to see you. Thank you, Shad. I got in on the tail end of it. I've heard it before, but each time I hear something a little more clear. And thank you for your questions that I heard too, because I'm sure those who didn't speak had questions as well. I'll try to make this succinct so that if you have any questions about Unity Urban Ministerial Schools curriculum and how we work, and Shad did answer some of that. He's an alum of the school, so he knows how it works as well. And so am I. So I'm going to share screen, hopefully, and bring up my PowerPoints if I can. Well, it says disabled participants share screening. So,
That was because you went out and came back in, Sandra. So let me give you that permission.
okay. It's still not letting me do anything. I didn't go anywhere, so I don't know where I came back in. But
I lost you off the screen and I thought you had left. So, all right. Just give me a second.
okay, thank you. I know how technology works when you want it to work.
Or it doesn't work. Yes. Hey, Matt, can you make her a co-host? I'm not having success at that, please.
Okay, I'm still not co-hosting, but until it comes up, I'll go ahead and just give you a brief overview. Unity Urban Ministerial School, as many of you know, was started in 1979 by Reverend Ruth Mosley in an effort to bring unity into more of the urban settings. And prior to that, there were a few ministers who were people of color who were ordained in unity, but Reverend Johnny Coleman had an experience that catapulted unity into a whole new way of thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, though back in 1979, those ideas were not coined. And so many people think that the urban school is about, and I still can't share, so I'm just gonna talk through this.
You should be able to now.
Okay. All right, so.
Oh, there it goes. Yeah, it wasn't working for me. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. That's how things work. Okay, so I'm just gonna start the slideshow. And the first slide just gives you an overview. This is a picture of downtown Detroit. The Renaissance Center, General Motors Renaissance Center, is where our office is located. We are licensed in Detroit, Michigan. That's where the school was established. I have one staff in Detroit. That's Reverend Carolyn Jean Rhodes from the class of 1995. And that tall tower, I think, with that's round, is the building that we're in, I believe. We're on the suite 2600, so on the 26th floor, overlooking the river between Detroit and Canada. It's just a beautiful place. And so now I'm going to ask Matt to show the brief video, which is a history of the urban school. Do I need to stop share, Matt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you do. Thanks.
This video was presented by our students in the class of 2019.
I love traditional education. And besides, I can't afford to move my family all the way across the country.
I received the call, but supporting a large family and working overnight, how do I get this done?
When I became a licensed Unity teacher, I never thought I would want to become a minister. My calling came as a gentle nudge from Spirit. Now, where do I go from here?
You can do this. The Unity Urban Ministerial School offers high-quality spiritual education as close as your computer screen. It is flexible. Do it on your own schedule, morning, noon, or night. Our computerized learning platform is easy to use and fully online. Your lectures and assignments are at your fingertips. Questions? Let our caring faculty and staff assist you. Our budget-friendly program with available scholarships lets you learn and grow right where you are. No relocating. You'll visit our Detroit and Unity Village campuses once a year for licensing and ordination meetings. Unity Urban Ministerial School is second to none. Our curriculum is focused on real-world ministry through the lens of practical Christianity. We offer courses on community planning, teaching methods, and spiritual counseling, as well as instruction in Bible research, metaphysical application, and interpretation. Combined with courses in church management and creating new thought messages, Unity Urban Ministerial School provides everything you need for a dynamic 21st century ministry.
This is your calling.
Hey, what are you waiting for?
It is easy to apply.
Let UUMS assist you in taking that next step on your spiritual journey.
Thank you, Matt. Okay. So again, I want to share with you, I'm going to go to the end first, start with the end in mind. The reason I shared that particular video is because this was one of the projects of our students. And our students at the end of their journey, when they're about to be ordained, spend 9 months in an internship. We're going to revamp that process because we're going to be in alignment with the redesign with UWM's education redesign program. So we're going to start the experiential program, not wait till the 9 months when they're about to be ordained, but we're going to move it to a quarterly process during the last year in their ministry education. So I wanted to give you that overview because this is what the students do. The candidates for ordination or a cohort group, and we established this many years ago, right after I was ordained, where they have a project, an internship project, and they do things like this to give back to the school. So they create things that help the school to grow and flourish and move towards even higher opportunities. This last year, the candidates established a Unity Ministerial Student Association special scholarship that is unique. And it just so happened that many of the board members were students in the urban school. And as their project, they created a fundraiser that would provide scholarships for those students needing books and things and travel, transportation, hotel, things that are not covered in your normal tuition only scholarships. The previous group established a book drive where they raised about $3,000 to send books to their cohort students in South Africa who often can't get their books in time for classes. And that became a really phenomenal project. And then the group before that before this group that created the video, created the Alumni Association, which is a 501c3. And it was one of my dreams when I was a student and when I got ordained that there were about 175 students at the time who had been ordained, who were graduates of Unity Urban School, and we didn't know where everybody was. We didn't know what they were doing or what they had done. So we established the Alumni Association. That association also takes care of the scholarships that we offer. So what is the Urban School? We have not changed from our mission statement that Reverend Ruth and others who set up this school started, based on Isaiah 61:1. The Spirit of God is upon me because God has anointed me to bring good news to the poor, to comfort the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom to the captives and the opening of prison to those who are bound. Now that last statement is very important because we're now starting a curriculum on prison ministry. And we decided that, New Thought doesn't really have an inroad into the penal systems, the justice systems. We need a way to help people who are incarcerated know that you can imprison my body, but you can't control my mind. And we want to bring Discover the Power Within You and other teachings, not only to them, but their family members, of people who are incarcerated, returning citizens who are trying to get back to normal life, so to speak. So we're working right now with a committee, and not all of them are urban school folks. We have people outside the urban school and people in UWSI who are on our committee to help build this curriculum on prison ministry certification. So I'm looking at certifications where people's passions are. So if your passion is music, there needs to be a certification in music. And I know that Unity Worldwide Ministries is also doing something similar. We already have an advanced metaphysics certification. Reverend Carol Lundy teaches that program, and we have graduated about 6 students already who, when they graduate, it's like getting a minor. I majored in communication, I minored in English in my bachelor's degree. And so students in our program can minor in a certificate program. If they have a passion for metaphysics, they minor and get an advanced metaphysics certificate along with their ordination. We have just started to launch UUMS Anointed Radio, to bring good news to those around the world, because now that we don't have Unity Online Radio, we have acquired an additional audience through the Aussie Project, Australia. Reverend Graham Johnson and his wife Marita decided they wanted to retire and asked us if we would take over this communication process they have, Facebook and others, to reach people in the outback and in other places that are not served by Unity. People have radios, or they have a cell phone or a smartphone, and they're able to connect to get the message. They're not necessarily going to become students, but it also gives us a broader audience for Unity, for the movement. So we have future plans for creating even more to bring good news to the poor, to comfort the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom to the captives and opening of the prison to those who are bound. Now, this is where we're located. Because we're asynchronous, there are people in different parts of the world who cannot be in a certain place at a certain time because they're in a different time zone. And so we work with those international students and the international programs to help those students get the education they need to become licensed unity teachers and ordained unity ministers. We have about 40 locations where our students and alumni are located throughout the United States and Canada, London, England. We have Johannesburg, South Africa, students in Nigeria. And we're really excited about that because these are the students who help to create a broader perspective of unity around the world. In South Africa, those students that are currently on the ordination path are already going out into the communities where unity has never been heard of. And the books that we provided through our internship project have created a library for Unity of Unity Center of Love and Light, run by Reverend Tandy in South Africa, so that the community can also have access to truth principles. It's really an amazing program. We have the blue pins are where the students are, and the red pins are where our alumni are located. And pretty soon there will be some red pins overseas because some of them are about to get ordained. We started a newsletter so that we can tell our own stories. And we're almost into our second year. One of our former students, Reverend Claudia Almos, who was ordained this year, is our designer and layout person. And so this is to keep, and anybody can access our newsletter if you want to, just send me an email. But this kind of keeps us connected because we are asynchronous. So we don't always see each other face to face, but it gives a good idea of what's going on, when the classes are starting, anything else they will want them to know. 3 years ago, in honor of Reverend Ruth Mosley, who founded the school, after her death, we started a reunion. And because we were in the pandemic, it was virtual. And it's amazing how many people come to our reunion on Hoover and using Zoom. We even danced to a Motown DJ. We have a commitment ceremony, a recommitment ceremony. We have a memorial, we have workshops, and we invite others to come in and present workshops for us. Reverend Ogun Holden and Reverend Kelly Isola were two of our presenters in our second one, I think. So this year we're going to do it as an open house, and we will have it throughout the month of November. And there'll be information going out to our alumni and students and faculty and staff to join us for different activities, events, and speakers on a certain day of the week. And just to keep the energy going, this is a community. We consider ourselves a community. In fact, when Mark Hicks joined our board several years ago, he asked, what is urban ministry? Why do we call this urban ministerial school? And he started asking everybody who was a part of the urban school, what do you think of urban? Urban, if you go to the dictionary, it means a city or a town, people who populate a city or a town. So that refers to all of us. And there are people who might think urban means a certain population. It does not. Urban means where the people are. And as you will see, if you go to our website, the very first thing you'll notice on our face page is a quote that says, Jesus was the original urban minister. Why? He didn't build a synagogue and ask people to come. He went to where the people are. And that's what we do. We want to be where the people are. So this newsletter goes out monthly, and I'm really excited about the information. We have a spotlight on students, a spotlight on faculty. We have a very diverse population in Unity Urban Ministerial School. Our faculty and our board are primarily alumni. The alumni always ask when they graduate and get ordained, okay, so what can I do for the urban school? And I mean, they bring some skill sets and some passions that we couldn't afford to pay for if we had to. And many of them work for the school. They work as the staff and the faculty. And also Richard Pacheco is our webmaster, an alumni of the school. And we just, we enjoy our family. So Mark Hicks came up with the phrase, people come to the urban school for the community, for the education, they stay for the community. And I doubt that you can talk to any urban school alumni and they won't tell you it's a community. So our face page of our website, uums.org, shows this picture, and that video that you saw is there too. So if you want to show it to somebody, just go to uums.org and you'll find it. This is kind of an overview of our alumni and our students right now. We have 14 students that are in the Eastern region. I just picked the ones that are in your region. So you get a picture, and some of these names you'll know. Shirley McAfee, Christine Krause, Christy Taylor, she's going to get me, Akusua, Akosua, I got it, Akosua, Washington Woods, Matthew Purington, Tom Schindler, Denora Arias, Margaret Kern Atkins, Jane Marie Manigault, Beverly Rockcliffe, Claudia Acera, Janice Gilmore, Albert Lewis, and Alba Pope. You know, these are some of the current students in our program. Our alumni in the East Coast, Daniel Landis, Sandra Boyer, Sandra Haas, Uris Vasquez, Christopher DeGiorgio, Richard Pacheco, Robert Turner, Patrice Bittner, Ann DeMichael, Valerie Gunsch, Richard Medici, and Luz LaCour. Luz is not in alphabetical order because I just recently found out where Luz moved from Florida. She's in Roanoke, Virginia. So this just gives you a picture. We have about, on an average, we have about 60 students at different levels. Some are in the SEE program, and which we call the ministerial prep program, which you can take classes anywhere. And we all keep track of the transcripts. So if you take a class at UWSI or at a church that was mentioned earlier through the SEE intensives, like we have with Reverend Roxanne Graves, our bursar, on the Space Coast, which is coming up October 30th through November 3rd. Wherever you take them, those if they're credited, they apply. We don't care where you get your SEE classes, just so you complete those 18 prerequisites so that you can apply to the ordination path. So we have mentors that we assign. They're actually called academic advisors. And these are alumni of the school who volunteer to help another student. Some of them have more than one, to kind of mentor them through the program. So they've been through the program themselves. They know how it works, and they serve as their go-between with faculty, staff, or wherever they need help. And that works really well. It keeps our alumni family, that community, connected as well. Our winter term is about to begin. We're getting ready to complete our summer term, our fall term, October 17th. Our terms are 10 weeks. The SEE, our ministerial preparatory classes, are 5 weeks. And we have 9 of them in a term. So a person can, if they're ambitious, they can actually complete 18 classes within 2 terms. And that's all you need to start the application process for ordination through UWM. Once a student is accepted on the ordination path, they can choose which school they want to attend. So they can they can attend the urban school, they can attend UWSI, they may be in the international program. Whatever path they choose, their credits will be transferred. And then they start in the ministerial studies program with us. Now those students, the classes are 10 weeks. We have 4 10-week terms: winter, spring, summer, and fall. And the classes are $300 per course. Let me back up. The classes for the the SEE program are $150 per course. The classes for the advanced program for ministerial candidates or students are $300 per course, capped at 3 courses. So if you take 4 courses, you only pay for 3. If you take 5, you only pay for 3. An average full-time load is 4 classes. I don't recommend anything beyond that unless you don't have anything else to do and you're completely bored with life. I worked full-time when I was in the ministerial program. I started, by the way, in the CEP program, which is what used to be the SEE. And I started in 1994. And I would take a week off of my vacation and come out to Unity Village and study. Now, I would be about 90 or 100 by the time I finished that program. The urban school established this program in 2008, and I was their first student to enroll in this online program. That's why I'm very proud of it. I couldn't have done it any other way. I had a full-time career and I traveled a lot in my job, and there was no way that I could finish. Now, if there had been a way, I probably would have continued through the UWSI program, or at that time was Unity School, Unity Seminary. But our classes are asynchronous. That means that, as Shad said earlier, the instructor will post the lecture and the assignment on a Wednesday. And the student has until midnight the following Tuesday to respond to the assignment and respond and read, review, and respond to 2 other students' assignments. Now, how do we connect with each other? That will surprise you. That will totally surprise you. When our students see each other for the first time, it's like a family reunion. They are so excited. And when they walk across the stage and cheer each other on, you would think they've been seeing each other for 2 or 3 years. Now, you may be wondering how we're going to adapt to the new redesign program. not a lot is going to change in the urban school, except for the fact that instead of 3 years to become ordained, it'll be 2. Instead of a 9 month internship sequentially, we're going to divide that up. We're already experiential. A couple of conventions ago, Reverend Cynthia Vermillion Foster and I was on the platform, and she introduced the urban school as experiential, and she introduced the Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute as academic. And I got a little offended because we are both academic and experiential. But now I think we're on the same page. We are experiential. Our students get engaged fully in the classroom activities. It's not just sitting there on your computer by yourself. We have the Alumni Association, the Minister Student Association that helps students, and we have Facebook pages just for our students, and we help them with our alumni advisors. So the scholarships. As a student in the urban school, you may qualify to apply for a scholarship. The Ruth Mosley Scholarship is for those students in the SEE program, the Ministerial Preparatory Program. The Charles and Myrtle Fillmore Scholarship is offered for second and through the 4th year. The 4th year is the internship. Again, that's going to change. It's going to be mushed into, instead of 3 years, they'll mushed into 2. So the 2nd and 3rd year students, so to speak, they can qualify for this for Charles and Myrtle Fillmore scholarships. Where do we get the money? We don't have a Templeton grant. We don't have a grant at all. We get the money through the generosity of you and your churches and the regions. And I want to give a shout out to those who support us. Unity World Headquarters, Unity Worldwide Ministries. And I'm starting to run a list on our website of our donors, because we couldn't be a school without all of you. And we're so grateful. And all of our alumni, all of our stakeholders, all of our friends in Unity. Thank you so much for all that you do, for all that you are. Now, here are our partnerships. UUMS Alumni Association provides the scholarships and advice and counsel to our students and us, the staff and the faculty, anything that they feel as alumni that they can contribute to help us grow and become better. A long time ago, I was approached by the International Alliance of Ministers in Unity, which is now called Unity Ministers Alliance. They wanted to do a partnership with us to take our students from graduation ordination into their 1st year in ministry. These are senior ministers, I belong to the organization, who volunteer to be a mentor to a student who has become a new minister, newly licensed and ordained minister, to get them to their 1st year of ministry. It's strictly voluntary, and we've had some great success from that. Reverend Richard Pacheco was his mentor was Reverend, oh shoot, my mind just went blank. It'll come to me in a minute. He's an urban school alumni. And Reverend Ken Fendrick, his mentor was Reverend Carol Record. And so we've had some great alumni, friends, and associates who help us with this program. We just started a partnership with Unity of Sacramento. Someone talked about the SEE program and how that works when your churches are offering SEE. Unity of Sacramento has the space and the technology to provide classes, and they didn't have the classes or the instructors. So we've started a partnership with them where they now offer SEE classes, and the students are enrolled in the urban school taking those classes. Live classes. Unity on the Space Coast offers the SE Intensive Week, which is coming up October 30th through November 3rd. Those students have the opportunity to enroll in the urban school, and we've had many students from that program come to the urban school once they finish SEE. We partner with the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary, Hillside International Center of Truth, and Emerson Institute. Now, with the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary, they were accredited several years ago by Accrediting Commission International. I approached them and found out how they did that. And now the urban school is accredited by Accrediting Commission International, which is a non-government accrediting institution with over 200 institutions that are under their organization. And it's amazing. Emerson Institute and the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary are the only 2 New Thought institutions that are accredited by ACI other than the urban school. Unity World Headquarters, Unity Worldwide Ministries, and the Unity Worldwide Ministries regions and centers are partnerships and support us in our mission. So here's the accreditation statement by Accrediting Commission International. We were accredited in 2022. And so this year, Reverend Karen Saunders, my classmate, and I attended for the first time the annual meeting of the accreditation organization and met a lot of other leaders and members of these institutions. This gives us some leverage to partner with these institutions if our students want to take classes through them or get another certification or credentialing. For example, the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary offers the Master's of Divinity, as does Emerson Institute. So if our students wanted to bridge over to those and they meet the qualifications, they can. So I want to go and say again, thank you for all of your support for the Urban School. Without you, we couldn't do it. And a shout out to all of our Urban School alum, all those who are students, all those who are instructors, all those who are mentors. We've had many mentors from Eastern Region. Thank you all for all that you are and all that you do. So I'll leave it in honor of Reverend Dr. Ruth Mosley, who made it possible for the Urban School to be born and to continue to grow and flourish. I'm going to stop sharing. I know my time was supposed to be till 11:30, but I think some of that time was you had such great questions, and I'm sure more questions on the UWM education redesign. I do serve on the balcony team, which are the leaders of the various paths, so that we do talk about the redesign, how it all fits together. We do work out the details on how one program will operate with another. So it's not in a vacuum. Are there any questions? Wow, I did a good job. Nobody has any questions, or I talked so fast I confused all of you. Well,
I think you did a great job, and I'm always pleased and surprised to hear how many alums we have of the Urban School in our region doing the good work.
thank you, thank you. And if you're curious about and you want to know more, our website is UUMS, that's Unity Urban Ministerial Schools acronym, .org. Check us out there, and if you have questions, please let me know.
So you're getting some thank yous, and it's always a pleasure to hear from you in the chat.
Chris raised his hand. Chris, you're on mute.
So I just want to put out a shout out to Barbara Giddings from Unity of Hartford. She's also in the UUMS path. And from what I'm told is she's very active in the prison ministry design. So I just wanted to
Yeah, Deborah Giddings.
Deborah Giddings, yes.
Thank you. You know what? I apologize to Deborah. I left her off, so I will definitely make sure she's back up there on that list. So thank you. Anything else? You all look really good. Edith, you're dressed to the nine.
Chris has her hand up.
Deborah Giddings is actually doing the pray-in for Jackie Fernandez's session this evening.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm so looking forward to that.
Oh, that's wonderful. If any of you have any interest in prison ministry and you'd like to join with us, we welcome you to our committee. Deborah is leading the committee along with Curtis Cesarato. And it is amazing what we've accomplished. We have folks on the committee who are returning citizens who have been incarcerated. We have folks on the committee who have worked inside the prison systems as teachers of GED classes and other things and have some great success stories. They've written books about it. We are just, this is where some people are who need to know that they are God's whole and perfect children, no matter what the circumstances are. And we have a message that we can deliver. I see Mark on here. Thank you, Mark. Yes. Stephanie Bush Basquette. Yes. Thank you.
So there being no more questions, we just want to say thank you, Reverend Sandra. And we hope to see you again soon. Blessings, everybody. Have a good lunch break, and we'll see folks back at 2 o'clock this afternoon.